Cowon may not be as popular or recognizable of a brand as perhaps the likes of Fire or Astel and Kern, but they've been producing audio players for at least 5 years longer than either of those companies. Truth be told, what proved to be my gateway drug into the world of high-quality portable audio players was the little Cowon J3. It was my first and only Cowon ever, and since then I had moved on to numerous models from Fio, Ibasso, Shenling, and a few others. But somehow I still thought back to the J3, and I finally decided that, after about 5 years, it was time to check them out again, which led me to this, the Plenue R. The Plenue R falls more in line with the more affordable devices within the Plenue lineup, and as such the design is considerably more subdued compared to its more expensive cousins. It's almost got a traditional candy bar layout, but then you've got those slants, those bold lines and beveled edges that really make it look very interesting. On the front is a 3.7-inch AMOLED display, which has a resolution of 800 by 400, which gives it a pixel density of around just 250 pixels per inch. That's not a particularly sharp display, but the fact is that this is an AMOLED display, and that does help to make the text seem more crisp thanks to that super high contrast ratio. The only real downside I could see though is that it doesn't seem like there is any sort of oleophobic coating on the display, and so it does show fingerprints and other smudges pretty quickly. Just below the display area is a button which looks somewhat similar to the home button on iOS devices. This is not a physical button though, but its functionality is something which you can customize and assign within the system settings. On the top right is the power button, which also has an LED to indicate various functions and statuses. The design of the power button itself looks very classy and reminds me a bit of a camera shutter button. The LED will light up to denote different things via various colors, such as the charging status, as well as an indicator for the type of audio file being played. Moving on to the right edge, here we find the dedicated volume rocker, a play-pause button, as well as a rocker for skipping tracks and fast-forwarding and rewinding. Along the bottom edge is a standard 3.5mm single-ended output, but this also doubles up as a digital optical output. Towards the right of the 3.5mm port is a 2.5mm balanced port, and then slightly farther right from the balanced output is the micro USB charging and data port. Now, it may seem a little strange to still see a micro USB port on a device in 2019, but the truth is that the Plenue R has been around for roughly 2 years already. You might then also be wondering why I'm even bothering to review such an old device, but that will become clear towards the end when we talk about the overall value of the Plenue R. Over on the left edge is the single microSD card slot, as well as some text displaying the brand, model name, country of manufacturer, and some other info. The rear features another interesting design element in the form of this corrugated back panel. However, I have to admit that this is where the design felt less premium to me, because this entire back panel is made out of plastic. It does have a nice soft touch rubberized coating, but a completely metal shell or perhaps glass on the rear would have elevated the feel of the device in the hand just to a whole new level. But then again, the use of plastic for this device may very well have been completely necessary because of the inclusion of Bluetooth. Oddly enough, the Plenue R is the only device in the entire Plenue lineup, at least at the time of doing this review, that features Bluetooth connectivity. But it's also a 2-year-old device, and so the Bluetooth version used here is 3.0. We are at least getting aptX compatibility, but the transmission range isn't particularly great, especially compared to the newer Bluetooth 4.2 and 5.0 standards. Under the hood sits a dual-core 1.9 GHz processor as well as 128 GB of internal storage, and handling all of the audio duties is a Burr Brown PCM5242 DAC, which allows for DSD streams of up to DSD 128. The internal battery has a capacity of 3000 mAh and is capable of providing up to 17 hours of playback for low-quality MP3 files and up to 16 hours for 96 kHz 24-bit FLAC files. Unfortunately, a downside here would be that this device can output only up to 1.4 VRMS from the single-ended output and up to 1.6 VRMS from the balanced output. Although, having said that, I still found it adequate to drive my HD58X from the single-ended output, but you will likely run into some power issues with more demanding headphones. If you want to get a little more in-depth details and a closer look at the design, then check out the link in the description, which will take you to the full written review. Okay, so whilst the physical design of the Plenue R is quite interesting, the same can be said for the user interface. Cowon actually uses the same UI layout on practically all of their Plenue devices, including their $2,000 flagship, the Plenue L. The main home screen is the Now Playing screen, and from here you can access the other functions of the device, such as the various settings and customizations. Up in the status bar, you can see info such as the playback order, which EQ preset is being used, the current time, whether the audio is being sent to the balanced or single-ended output, and whether you are in IEM or headphone mode, as well as the current volume level. Opening up the quick access panel allows you to select between a couple of themes, but these themes only affect the look and layout of the Now Playing screen. There are also two types of VU meters which can be shown, both types of which will look a bit different depending on which theme is being used. From within these quick access functions, you can also access a couple of other features which include adding the current track to your favorites, an A/B function, as well as the equalizer. For the EQ and sound effects of this device, there is a fair amount to get through, and so I'll just be covering them briefly in this video. Otherwise, we'd be here for quite some time. So do head on over to the full written review if you want some more in-depth info about it. If we jump into the EQ settings, we can see a number of profiles, 4 of which can be adjusted by the user along with an additional 50 presets. Within each user profile, there are 3 main sections, namely EQ, BBE+, and SE. For the EQ section, there are a total of 10 bands which can be adjusted simultaneously, and below each slider is an indicator which displays the frequency point which each respective slider will target. Below each of those frequency points is a setting which allows you to alter the exponential width of the EQ adjustment at the selected frequency point. In regular EQs, this is often called the Q value. The BBE+ setting allows you to control the level of the BBE effect, the Mach 3 bass effect, the 3D surround effect, as well as enabling the MP enhance effect, whereas the SE section is comprised of chorus and reverb effects. Right, well, those effects are all good and well, but how does the Plenue R actually sound? Without the effects, it sounds perfectly fine. In fact, it's got one of the most neutral and natural presentations I've heard. There seems to be just a touch of warmth, but everything from the detail retrieval to the instrument separation is fantastic. However, it's when we throw those sound effects into the mix that the Plenue R comfortably soars ahead of practically anything I've heard, including the FiiO M11 and certainly the Walkman A55, which I reviewed a little while ago. Adding just a bit of the 3D sound effect along with a smidgen of reverb, that really made it seem more like I'm listening to the music on a full-on sound system rather than from headphones. And likewise, just a bit of the BBE effect brought out the lows and highs just enough to make drum hits and cymbal crashes seem slightly more apparent and detailed, but without crossing into the territory of sibilance. It's because of the fine control and the types of DSP wizardry that can be applied that the Plenue R is without any doubt the most enjoyable device I've ever listened to. When it comes to judging the value of the Plenue R, a lot has changed since its original release, most important of which is the price. It is much more affordable now than its original $500 to $600 price tag, to the point where you can now get it on Amazon for less than $300. To be quite blunt, however, even after 2 years since it was launched, there is still nothing below the $500 price point that can give you as much of a great combination of product design and versatility in audio effects. As for right now, for anyone who doesn't really care much about Bluetooth audio or streaming services, I simply cannot recommend the Plenue R highly enough, especially given that absolute bargain of a price tag. Right, that's it for this quick little review. If you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them down below. And if you want some more in-depth info, again, hit that link in the description. That's all from me for now, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.